started. So just sort of launching, obviously, these CEMP talks. We bring in all kinds of people, academics and industry folk. And on this occasion, as relatively rarely, we have an academic from here at Bournemouth University, which is very lovely. So our very own Catalin Brylla, who's a principal lecturer here, and who is a documentary director, as well as having written a number of books and papers on disability and documentary and disability in film and reducing stigma through factual media. That's your one of your publications, isn't it? And Catalin also chairs diversity, equality, inclusivity committees, and is on the board of directors of the Society for Cognitive Studies of the Moving Image. So many faces, busy person, and we're really looking forward to your presentation, Catalin. So I'm going to let you share your screen and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this talk today. Let me share my screen. Make sure that I include sound because I will show clips.
Yes. Get that right.
But if there's anything, just please interrupt me. Am I sharing now? You can see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going to talk about two projects that I worked on, and the common denominator of these is impact-driven media practice for disability advocacy. The first project is a British Academy funded project, which is about media engagement for well-being in the visually impaired community. And we are developing a preliminary model for research and intervention to increase the well-being of blind people through media engagement, i.e. media production and consumption. And we have quite a diverse team from different universities, international universities, but we also have quite a few team members who are visually impaired themselves. And we are also collaborating with the Peer Center, that's a public involvement center at Bournemouth University with Dr. Kate Jupp. Our partners are Beyond Sight Loss, Thomas Pocklington Trust and Dorset Blind Association. So we have partners based in London, but also in Dorset, because we want to analyze regional disparities or similarities. It's a pilot project. So everything is very much based on small scale and grassroots approaches. And then after this project, we would like to apply for funding for a bigger project. But let's have a look what the research objectives are. So first of all, we want to evaluate the role of media for physical, psychological, social, and economic well-being in the visually impaired community. And we want to conceptualize strategies that enable service providers to successfully plan and deliver media training workshops to their service users. We want to pilot media engagement strategies for a diverse range of blind participants with different degrees of visual impairment and from different demographic contexts. And we want this to involve media creation and consumption. And finally, we want to develop a preliminary model for studying and implementing media engagement for well-being in the VI community, which then, of course, could be adapted to other contexts of marginalized or disadvantaged communities in relation to media engagement. So stage one of our project, which started last year, was reviewing media engagement approaches. So we used here systematic literature review to pinpoint the main concepts, which are active versus passive and private versus public media engagement, or different engagement parameters like the place of engagement, the type of engagement, what kind of engagement it involves in terms of the participants. Is it cognitive, affective, embodied? The technically conceptual skills required for media engagement. We also looked at well-being models that were not necessarily linked to media engagement, but are general well-being models which we want to synthesize with media engagement models. We looked at subjective versus collective well-being, and media creation as well as consumption for well-being. And there are a lot of interventions for doing that. But funnily enough, most interventions are done in either psychology, sociology, or computer science. There's very little in the humanities. Stage 2 was then to meet with our partners and discuss media engagement and visual impairment. So the project is very participatory. It uses a participatory action research approach, meaning that we involve the partners and in particular the VI community in decision making, in research design, in planning, in dissemination. We have an advisory board which is made up of people from the industry, but also a lot of people with visual impairment who have the lived experience. So it's there's a very big emphasis on participatory research, which is why the first key stage after the literature review was to meet with the partners and engage in knowledge exchange workshops to find out certain things. And we didn't just have the partners present, but also people from the community, i.e. blind service users or members. So first we discussed how media can enhance well-being. We talked about education, so media can be used for accessing information, community building, it can be used for keeping connected with peers and families, creativity, media for creative self-expression, and employability, so media for work and promoting oneself professionally. And we talked about different case studies, examples from their experiences with their members and how it can enhance well-being in terms of identity formation, reducing stress, overcoming anxiety, social participation, which is very important when it comes to blindness because all the barriers, receiving community support, and positive mood management, which is a big issue with members who don't engage much in the activities from the partners. There is a lot of need for positive mood management there to foster motivations for more engagement with such initiatives. What we found out are quite a few obstacles to media engagement. So one big obstacle is the lack of more updated and practical advice on digital media engagement. So a lot of charities, NGOs like the RNIB, the Royal National Institutes of Blind People, they don't have up-to-date information or toolkits or training in relation to media engagement. They still use a lot of outdated training for how to use, for example, screen readers and other devices, which of course are still used nowadays, but they don't look at smartphones, they don't look at AI, they don't look at new technologies that can be used like assistive virtual glasses and so forth. So that's really missing. Another one is reduced accessibility new technologies. So a lot of companies like Google or Apple or Microsoft, there's still a lot of work to do in terms of making their software applications accessible. There are progresses. Apple, for example, has VoiceOver, which works really well with taking pictures. Adobe has access tools for Adobe Premiere and the Adobe Suite to be used, but there's still a lot to be done. And of course, the capacity building is missing how to use these applications. There's also personal and emotional inhibitions to create media because of patronizing attitudes by sighted people. So, for example, one of the participants, he was saying that whenever he goes with a mobile phone out to film things and he's completely blind, people make fun of him that how can a blind person take pictures or film videos? They just don't believe it. They think he's an imposter, and he has had this reaction several times. So this creates a kind of internalized stigmatization where a lot of blind people say, no, I'm not capable to use media because society behaves with me like this. Now, what are the requirements? The requirements are that media engagement training is necessary, but for several skill levels. So there are some people in the community who can use media, but most have a more basic skill. But even these basic skills are very varied and heterogeneous. The training needs to be done by tailor-made media tutors and tailor-made to visual impairment, because what what people were telling us is that they may find online links to YouTube tutorials, for instance, but they are never targeted to VI people, which, for example, means that assistive technologies are not discussed. So it's kind of useless for blind people. So it needs to be tailor-made. And they really would like mentorship and peer support to be part of these workshops and this initiative, so that there's a feeling of collectiveness and peer support. So what we did next was a survey of media engagement and VI, in which we looked at demographic questions, mapping idea of general well-being, what makes people motivated, what well-being means to them, what are challenges or fears or anxieties in their lives, what are the media consumption and media creation patterns, how they think media can have positive or negative implications on their well-being, and their current skills that they have in media creation, but also what they would like to learn, their desired skills. And also an important question was whether they would like to collaborate with others or not in media creation. So these are some of the statistics of our evaluation. Just two examples. One was about the preferred social media platform, here organized by our member organizations. So most people really prefer Facebook and YouTube, but Facebook is really at the forefront, which is why we created a Facebook group for peer support. Here's another example of the interest in learning media creation skills. So interestingly, you would think that blind people would go a lot for audio creation, or they would like to know, but actually they really would like to know how to film videos and edit videos, which was quite surprising. So the lessons learned for our media training workshops were that accessibility needs to be a top priority. We need to ensure that platforms and tools and materials are fully accessible to all participants. The training session need to be hands-on and structured, meaning that they have to be in person, not online, or at least the key ones in person. And many respondents prefer step-by-step guidance rather than self-directed learning. Also, there needs to be a focus on confidence building. Yeah, so potential media creators who are blind feel unsure about their skills, also because of the societal stigma. So the workshop should include encouragement, feedback, and peer support. As I said before, there should be a prioritization on video and audio production skills, but mostly video making and editing. So these are highly desired, but the least developed amongst the respondents. And also creating networking and collaboration opportunities. So many respondents want to learn from others and work with others, making peer-based learning and co-creation more at the forefront of what they are doing, because at the moment there's a lot of fragmentation where people don't come together in these communities to do things. So that's one of the needs and desires they have. So stage 4, which we are doing at the moment, we are presenting and co-evaluating the survey with our partners. And we are identifying media tutors to help run these workshops. Now, this was a real challenge because the media tutors, ideally, we wanted them to be from the VI community. So in an ideal case scenario, the media tutor would have been visually impaired, have teaching skills or training skills, and have technological skills across different media platforms. It was impossible to find people to tick all these 3 boxes. So we had to compromise and choose 2 tutors. One tutor who has decent technical skills. This was one of our team members, Annika Zayen from Royal Holloway. So her technical skills are okay, but she has the lived experience of being blind and has a lot of training experience. And then the other tutor who will co-tutor with her has no lived experience or any training experience with visual impairment, but his technical skills are really, really good. So we are teaming up tutors. And I think this may actually be a good idea for risk management as well, to reduce risks, so complementing skills and having feedback loops. So in the end, it may actually be better than having just one tutor to rely on. In addition to that, we will have an assistant trainee for every partner. So we'll have someone from the community themselves who will assist in the training, who is blind and who will assist. And at the same time, they will be mentored and trained how then to train or inspire other people through peer support and peer leadership within the VI group. We already identified the assistant trainees for the partners, and they will be part of this workshops to plan, well, the meetings to plan the media engagement workshops. Then we'll run the media engagement workshops. So it's all about capacity building. We'll use data collection methods of observing how the tutoring will translate into learned skills. And we'll do a focus group at the end of each session to hear about the experiences. The workshop content will be media creation, like podcasting or shooting videos and editing them with smartphones, but also media consumption. So for example, listening to films or TV drama or news and discussing it. So a bit like a film club. And there will also be an aim to improve media literacy, also for the sake of representation and avoiding cyberbullying and these kind of things. So we'll actually have a workshop on cyberbullying. After that, stage 6 is to evaluate the workshops. So we'll ask participants to do a media-related task of their choice for 1 month. So for example, writing a blog or 3 blog entries, or setting up a Facebook profile, or shooting a 1-minute video. And then we'll interview them about their experience to see how they translated the workshop capacity building or capacity skills into their own practice, and what are the pathways for impact. And based on that, we can plan ahead for our bigger projects. In terms of dissemination, we have a website, we have a Facebook group, which at the same time is a peer support group. We'll obviously use journal papers and conference papers, but what's really important is that we also involve the community in dissemination. So we will co-disseminate with and within the VI community. So for example, we'll have members from the partners collaborating in journal writing, in writing articles that we disseminate, and other media exposure. And we already started doing that, where for example, I presented our project with one of the blind participants on Hope Radio in Bournemouth, and some members, they made short videos about the project and disseminating and spreading the word about the project and about the Facebook group. So I would like to show you a few minutes from a video that this person here on the right filmed. So his name is Jeff Cummings, and he's one of our trainee assistants. And he made this really amazing video about announcing the project and talking about why it's important to engage with media for blind people. So let me just show you a few minutes from that. And I think you should hear the sound. You should be able to, because I enabled it. If not, please let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Maybe they want to get access to the news. Now, I myself, I am a totally blind vlogger. I've been doing this seriously for, I would say seriously for maybe a year. I think recently even more serious, but it is very difficult to get the right devices and the right software. And not only the right software, but software that gets updated on a regular basis. So I thought I would bring you down here first, just to give you an idea and show you what's possible. See, I just keep panning from side to side. But this is such a beautiful scene, everybody, and this is at the heart of the project, that a blind person, visually impaired person, should be able to get access to everything that they possibly can involving the media, even if it is standing at the edge of a lake with an iPhone and microphone and shooting this. So I think now I should take you guys for a coffee. See you soon. How you doing, you guys? Now, I call this place my office because this is kind of where it all started for me, or where I really got the media bug here, because this is my local coffee shop, a wonderful place, and I do coffee reviews. So this is what I do. I do coffee reviews. So I review coffee, I review cakes. Now, let's get into character. Now here, I have a very nice flat white. Now the lady said she put a really nice pattern on the top of it. Now, I can't really vouch for that, but I can vouch for the fact that it's hot, and I can vouch for the fact that it is very nice. So this is a very nice flat white, which is, I think a flat white is an espresso with milk.
Okay, let's stop here. It's a long video, and I spared you the part where he's raving about our project because he's really involved. But it was a really good video for disseminating it onto our Facebook group and attracting more people to join the group. And he's a very good motivational speaker as well. So I think he will be a good community leader in media engagement. Anyway, let's move to our next project. So the next project is also about disability advocacy in a very different way. So this one is the Youth Disability Advocacy and Research Network funded by the AHRC. And PI is Dan Jackson, who is with us today. And the co-Is are Mike Sunderland, Filippo Trevisan, and myself. We collaborated with Action on Disability and Development, especially their Young Leader program in East Africa, specifically in Tanzania, where we set up a network of young East African disability activists, academics, international campaigning organizations, and existing disability networks. Now, the aim for advocacy were to increase the well-being of the disability community and challenge the stigma of disability as well. The objectives to pursue were networking and knowledge exchange, capacity building, and impact, and I will go in a bit more detail. And we had the following outputs. So we had a Festival of Disability Advocacy, a webinar series, which is ongoing, 2 advocacy campaigns, an online repository of toolkits and training videos, and the international and interdisciplinary network of disability advocacy. One of the most important premises was participation in the spirit of nothing about us without us. We wanted the advocacy to be done with and by the disability community, not to, about, or for them, which is why we closely collaborated with local partners and the disability community. And we used a lot of strategies from appreciative inquiry and asset-based development approaches, meaning that we didn't criticize or interrogate existing infrastructures and resources and circumstances, but we rather built on opportunities and identified things that can be used, resources that can be used. And I think that's a really important approach when it comes to participation, which I'm also using on the blindness project a lot. So one example for that was co-writing the funding application with the partner, but also the participatory grant-making process, which I will come back to in a moment. Another premise was disability identity, to build a strong political disability identity and to foster a positive sense of self and feelings of connection to or solidarity with the disability community. So here, the foundation of this premise is that systematic change to the status quo is only possible if people with disabilities have to understand themselves as part of a broader disability community and have a sense of their identity as a political identity as well. So it's basically all about thinking collectively as a community, but at the same time as an individual through their own lived experiences, and how this can inform these 6 parameters, which I don't have time to go into, with the aim of advocacy. Another premise was knowledge and leadership capacity. So in terms of knowledge, obviously, we wanted to build on skills to pursue advocacy, but there was also strong emphasis on leadership capacity. So leaders who inspire others to pursue advocacy, because that can truly result in sustainable impact within the community. And this also encourages peer support, where shared experience is used to support each other without too much help from the outside. We had a festival, a 4-day festival in Dar es Salaam, where we had a lot of workshops and presentations on disability advocacy by many different speakers, local, international speakers, disabled, non-disabled speakers. And the festival really operated a lot based on principles that bring groups together and fosters curiosity, collaboration, and reduces prejudice. And there's a lot of resemblance here with Allport's contact hypothesis, which says that the best way to reduce prejudice between groups and to have them interact and reduce intergroup boundaries is to have sustained direct interaction, which happens through the festival and beyond the festival, cooperation towards common goals, which happened with the advocacy campaigns, a sense of equal status where people felt respected on both sides, and maintaining group identity at the same time, where people were treated with respect in terms of their own positionalities, which were not erased to make everyone the same or equal, but differences were respectfully kept and acknowledged. The advocacy campaigns, which were kickstarted during the festival, had at its premise, at the center, participatory grant making. So this strategy seeds decision-making power about funding, which includes the strategy and criteria behind those decisions, to the very community that funders aim to serve. So this means that the young activists, they networked, they learned about advocacy, and they discussed ideas during the festival sessions, but then they discussed the allocation of funds. So they created a task team with elected young leaders by their own community, and they also selected and formulated their own criteria for what projects would be funded. And then advocacy campaign proposals were submitted to the task team, and then the winners were allocated a mentor, and the campaigns were seen through. So it was very much driven by the young disabled activists themselves. So the first campaign was about social media training, especially in Zanzibar. The second campaign was about awareness of stigma around blindness. And I'm going to show you a video a bit later, which shows more about this campaign. So I'm going a bit faster through these slides. We also had a webinar series. We still have it. It's still running, where we invite speakers from different organizations to talk about disability advocacy. I think someone has their microphone on. And we have a website, which is a repository of training videos. So all the festival presentations and workshops were filmed and edited, and they are there as training and education videos. We record all the webinars. We have their books, articles, reports, white papers, and a lot of toolkits. So it's a growing repository and a growing network. We also created 4 impact videos. So we shot and edited a charity video, a research video, and a video about the 2 campaigns. They're still in the making. They're not finished yet. So I'm going to show you a very rough version of the charity video that kind of sums up the entire project. And it's very raw. The sound hasn't been done yet. Some bits are not subtitled yet. It's more like an assemble edit. But you will get the idea of the project. It gives a decent overview.
Some of bus drivers, they have no education about persons with disability when they want to cross the road. And sometimes they cause accident, so it is a big challenge. Another challenge is rejection. They are rejected when they want to enter the bus. They are rejected by the conductors. They are rejected by bus drivers.
There were people who were thinking that sitting with someone with albinism, maybe it's contagious, or being a person with albinism, you are sick, you are very ill. Though I was sitting in front of the classroom, I was not seeing what the teacher was writing. I had to move from my desk to the blackboard, read one sentence, coming back to my desk, writing it, going back. We want to implement things, we want to impact our society, but we are not given chances.
We are becoming a participatory grant maker, whereby the grants will be having the targeted group, or the group which the fund is targeted to. They will be having power. They will be having decision to make choice of what they want to do, choice of where they want the fund to go.
Before, we were not even included in those decision-making tables, where people who give us grant, people with disability were not there.
Participatory grant-making approach is very good approach. It's going to provide a right solution to the right problem or challenge in the community towards persons with disability, because persons with disability are those who are living with impairment and the ones who are facing challenge, so they know the challenge exactly.
In 2023, AD International, in collaboration with Bournemouth University, American University, and other actors, conducted a Youth with Disability Advocacy Festival, which was focusing on building capacity of young persons with disability, on conducting their advocacy initiative, but also knowledge exchange between different actors, including scholars, academicians, and other individual disability activists.
Campaign was about digital advocacy, where we taught young people with disability how to use digital platforms in advocating on matters of disability, but also for them to brand themselves, to show their abilities, their daily activities, their daily life.
Inahusu katika masuala ya uchechemuzi au utetezi juu ya haki ya watu wenye ulemavu kupitia mfumo wa kidijitali, yani kimaanisha mitandao mbalimbali kama Instagram na mitandao mingine. Imeweza kunisaidia sana kuona kwamba tuna nafasi kubwa, tuna sauti kubwa kuweza kuwatetea watu wenye ulemavu.
Kwa sababu upanda Tanzania naweza nikasema asilimia kubwa watu wenye ulemavu wanakosa haki zao za msingi. Asante sana. Kupitia mafunzo pamoja na ushiriki wangu kupitia haya digital advocacy Zanzibar, faida ambayo nimepata kupitia haya mafunzo, kwanza kabisa
pengine uliona ulemavu ni kushindwa, pengine uliona ulemavu ni kutoweza. Tunaweza, ulemavu si laana. Advocacy project is all about addressing negative perceptions or negative attitudes. So I have recorded a music song which is trying to raise awareness to the people concerning persons with disability. In case kama anacho, kwa mfano nyie hapo sasa mnisaidie. Mtu akiachwa tufanye kevi, amefika mtu umemkataa, kaja tena mwingine, dereva mwingine nyuma yako naye kamkataa. Huyu mtu si atachelewa sasa kufika anapoenda. Ninakukumbusha dada yangu,
Mimi maoni yangu kutokana na changamoto hizi wanazozipata hususan watu wenye ulemavu, bado watu wanahitaji wapewe elimu, hususan wanaoshughulika na usafiri wa madereva wenzangu na makondakta pia wapate elimu hiyo ya juu kuwa huyu unachomfanyia. Jamii nyingi sasa hivi huwa inapenda kusikiliza muziki. Sasa kama inapenda kusikiliza muziki, huwa akiusikiliza ule muziki ataelewa kuwa huyu mtu alikuwa na maana gani. Ana uwezo kulifanyia kazi lile jambo ambalo lilisikia kwa kupitia muziki. Lakini kwa kupita kwa kuongea kidogo inaweza kawa ni changamoto. Sababu jamii nyingi ukiangalia sana mtu atakuwa na headphone masikioni anasikiliza muziki.
I'm going to advocate, I'm going to raise awareness to the whole community in the country. If I can be funded, I'm going to make wonders in the country, in Tanzania. Disability is not inability. We can be lawyers, we can be journalists, we can be teachers, we can be doctors. Understand, disability is not inability.
Okay, apologies it was so rough, but it's literally in the assembly stage, so I apologize for the subtitles and the sound. It will be refined soon. Okay, and I think that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Let me stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Catalin. Okay, are there any questions people are burning to ask? If people are just sort of thinking about it, I have one, so I'm going to do chair's prerogative and stick mine in, Catalin. In the first project, you were talking about media engagement from 2 points of view, because you were talking about media making, but you're also talking about visually impaired people as audiences to begin with. But then that part wasn't developed. So I just wondered, because obviously most of what then, you went on to talk to us about was about participatory and media making. But you had talked early on about working with broadcasters or whatever, or producers. And I just wondered if you could tell us a tiny bit more about that aspect of that project.
So the focus will be on media creation, but we do want to also explore media consumption.
Yeah.
Media consumption meaning that we are looking at blind members from these communities participating in collective experiences of media, then collective discussions, like a film club. We are not looking at them as audiences doing audience research. That's a different project. We are looking at having this kind of community building through consuming media, having fun, listening to things, discussing things. It's just something that through our research we noticed that not all people, whether they're blind or not, want to be active media creators. They want to be passive media users or consumers, and that's fine. But we will see from the meetings we'll have in the next few weeks whether anyone wants to do that or whether they really want media creation. So we take our cue really from our partners and their participants.
Okay, no, thank you. I think you have a question, Leshu.
Yes, thank you so much for just such a wonderful presentation and such a fascinating project. I'm very excited to see this build. Also, just as an aside for audiences, I was thinking about this in terms of how perhaps people might start exploring audio description and working or having communications that way, because that's also very creative as much as about audiences. But my question is in some ways a bit more theoretical, so I'll try and keep it brief so we can get some of the more practical discussions back. But I'm fascinated by the description, what you're doing with this project, but how well-being showed up at first, because well-being is so often associated with that neoliberal drive for individualism and self-sufficiency. And there's something very interesting about how this project is sort of reclaiming a concept of well-being, but within a participatory and community. group. And I guess I'm still thinking through this, but I was wondering if you had come across particular challenges around these sort of dueling definitions, or if there was any sort of insights you were gaining through this practice?
Yes, no, definitely. Through our literature review, we found models that talk about well-being as a collective endeavor, but also an individual endeavor, and the approaches are very different. In fact, the second East Africa project is more about collective well-being, I would say, whilst the first one is more about individual well-being. And that's because we noticed from our surveys, but also from talking with our partners and some of their service users, that primarily the interest of people is for their own individual well-being, and then secondary is about collective well-being. And our partners were very blatant about it, saying that if their members don't see an immediate well-being benefit for themselves, they won't come to the workshops. Forget it. They're not interested in advocacy or a wider community. So we are pursuing the more individual well-being in my blindness project. Having said that, for the wider project, when we get more funding, hopefully after this pilot, we will have more partners, and we'll also explore the more collective well-being, for example, through community podcasting. Or maybe through the workshops, we'll see that when people collaborate together, they will develop a sense of collective well-being. So it's a bit of a grounded theory approach at the moment, where we really take our cues from the community.
Thank you so much. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Do you think, Catalin, that says something about the West and the global South and priorities there? You know, because obviously you've got two very different national settings, one where people are focused on individual well-being, and one where it's very much about advocacy for the wider group, isn't it? And I wonder if that says something about stronger sense of community in one place than another.
I'm not sure, because I've worked a lot with people from East Africa, especially Zanzibar, and they also, the priority is individual well-being, not community well-being. I think it was the different scope of the projects that pushed us into individual or collective. But I think it's a universal human trait that we are egocentric. We want primarily individual well-being, and then the collective is outside of that. I think it's a universal thing.
Anybody else want Dan, did you want to add in anything about that project as you were working on it, the second project?
Not especially.
Not especially, no.
Did a good job summarising it.
Yeah. Jenny, did you want to? Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Catalin, so thank you so much for your presentation. Apologies that I arrived a little late.
No problem.
And please accept my questions in that context, because you may already have discussed this. I'm really interested in how, for you know, reasons of personal investment, I'm really interested in how participatory projects are developed, and how let's say how the ethical aims of participatory projects can sometimes come into conflict with the needs of funders for example, due diligence. So I've got two questions. One is sort of prior to the project starting, and the other is kind of after the project's been completed, in terms of the practicalities of how you build large-scale projects with that are participatory and co-creative with large numbers of people. Large numbers of co-investigators, essentially. So the first one was about, so I've been talking to colleagues from international development in my own institution about how incredibly difficult it can be to broker international partnerships while also meeting stringent due diligence requirements of research funders in the UK. I heard that you said that it was a pilot, so maybe this question hasn't come in yet, but I was wondering if you could say a bit more first about the process of building the partnerships that then allowed you to build the funded project and then to access collaborations with disabled communities. So that was my first question. It's about kind of building partnerships in such a way that is enabling, facilitative and co-creative under environments that make that from the perspective of policy, legislation and finance incredibly difficult. And then my other question, which is much shorter, was about impact evaluation and what sort of creative methods you might have in mind or might already have pursued in terms of that. So yeah, a pre-development question and a post-evaluation question.
Sure. No, that's a very important point, because the relationships, I will talk about the first project first, the blindness project, and then for the East Africa project, maybe I can refer to Dan, because he's also very familiar with the partners and the existing relationship. So for the blind projects, I've had a very long relationship with the key partner Beyond Sight Loss. I've known them for more than 10 years because I made documentaries about blind people and I screened them to their members. I'm also a volunteer, going there sometimes to their meetings and helping to serve food and drinks and volunteering. So I have a very good relationship with them. And through my filmmaking with blind people, I've got to know quite a few partners. So that really helped. And it's a lot about trust, because a lot of these charities, especially with blindness, are approached by journalists who want to exploit them, or filmmakers, or whatever. So they are very mistrusting to outsiders. And it takes really time to build a relationship. When it comes to impact, so I don't expect any huge impact from a pilot. I only expect to measure, or at least have indications for pathways for impact. So obviously we'll interview the people, the participants, how they did in the workshops and how they did the post-workshop tasks. We'll have focus groups, and that will feed into our larger project, where we really can solidify impact a bit more. Now, when it comes to the second project, then would you like to say something about the relationship with ADS, the local partner?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Jenny. I mean, like the other one Catalin was just talking about, we had an existing relationship with AD before we put the bid in, and that kind of prompted it, really. As one of my colleagues, Mike Sunderland, was doing pro bono work for them. He'd been running these online training programs for media content creation. And when the particular call came out, it was an HRC networking grant call. That's what prompted us to start thinking about building that project out, really. So your question, the process of building partnerships was an existing relationship with them, but then also bringing in some other partners who came from other contacts. So we already had a network, I guess, by the time that we applied for it. The difference with AD is they were, I guess, the primary or implementing partner, and we gave, built into the project, they basically got half the money, which paid for their time and I mean, I didn't quite appreciate it at the time, but just thinking about as a project PI and speaking to the other people who got the same grant as us, there was about 8 or 9. The nightmare of trying to transfer money abroad, small payments to people, and so on through university systems is nigh on impossible. And even the participatory grant making bit was all made possible because they did all the payments. So I would definitely do that again. Do you know what I mean? So it takes out the university bureaucracy, and they were happy to do it. I guess the other broader point about the funder is in this call, and I've seen it in other ones as well, ones where you're working with ODA countries, HRC and other funders now. I mean, they put equitable partnerships and working processes absolutely central to it. And so it's on them to kind of walk the walk, like put their money where their mouth is. As in, if we're proposing something which is equitable, but involves, money transfers or relationships that are unusual. Let's say the participatory grant making, where we don't even know what the parameters of the advocacy campaigns that we're going to fund are, because that's on them to. It's on the participants to develop. So that's a very different story that you have to tell the funder then. But if they're serious about equitable partnerships, you would hope that they would fund it. I mean, it was just to finish that point. When we put the bid in, we didn't know that AD were gonna do this participatory grant making. They developed that change during the course of our project, so we were their pilot in a way. So we didn't have to put that in the bid because we didn't know it was going to happen. But that evolved over the course of the project. Yeah. Gosh, I don't know if I've answered the question or answered more questions. Yeah, I've probably answered a few of the questions that you didn't even ask.
I think it's great, and there are actually you sparked a few things I would like to build on. So one thing is about payment as well, and that's something that in the blindness project and the East Africa project, people were very appreciative to be paid for their time, especially when they are doing surveys. And that's something that I heard from my blindness charity partners, is that too many times people approach them for surveys that are unpaid and they feel exploited. So the budget from the very beginning, because I did write the application together with the partners, from the very beginning, it was budgeted to pay people for their time in the workshops, for the meetings, and for the surveys, so that they feel that their time is being appreciated. And that actually went a long way for people to participate and to motivate them. In terms of creative strategies for impacts, your other question, on the East Africa project, we made these videos. And I think, like Dan said, the videos have different objectives. One was for the partner in order to get more funders. One is for the research team in order to disseminate academically. And then we have 2 campaign videos which can be used by the campaign leaders to raise awareness for their own campaigns on social media. So when it comes to impact, you really have to segment audiences and disseminate in very different ways. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Catalin. It's really helpful. Jenny, has that answered your questions?
Yeah, really brilliant answers. Thank you so much. Resonates a lot with what I've heard elsewhere and some of the things I've been thinking about myself. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Catalin? We have 5 to 2, so we can manage one, but that would be it. None. Okay. Well, look, Catalin, that was really, really interesting. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks for inviting me.
Great value for money there, Catalin. 2 projects in one. It's fantastic. And thanks everybody for coming. And I hope to see you at a future CEMP talks. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, Krista. Thank you for everyone for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.